Alright, welcome back. Let's talk about interfaces. So interfaces are similar to, in a way they're kind of similar to inheritance in that you have a separate class and they have properties that can apply to another class that you are bringing in. But whereas inheritance has more of a parent-child relationship, interfaces have more of a just a contract. Think of it like a contract. So for example, we have here, let's create a new interface, and I'm going to call this I for interface. That's kind of convention, and then rate. So this is an interface, and it has we'll have it be a rate. So we can say public, we'll say void set rate. Okay, now when I have public void set rate, note a typical method or typical class would have something that would look like this, right? But with interfaces, all we are doing is we are kind of creating the outline for what's needed, and then we leave the implementation up to the user. So we can have public void set rate, we can have public void maybe increase rate, whatever we would want. So we can have a couple different methods here. Now if we come over to bank account and we want to use that rate, so again, think of this like a contract, right? So we can have other classes that are going to not inherit the rate but implements the I rate. Okay, now it's squiggly because we're implementing this interface, we must use the methods that were declared here. So we must use set rate and increase rate. So we can come wherever we want to have our interface methods. We would need to have our public void set rate, and we need to have our public void was increase rate. I think is what it was. Yeah. So we can just have these here. Setting rate and then increasing rate. Okay. So that's kind of all there is, right? So that's our bank account app that's implementing the rate. And then, so now in our app, now those methods are then available to us. Account1 dot set rate, account1 dot increase rate. So I'm going to leave the actual code up to some other implementation, but at least we kind of see that we can call those methods right there. So the whole point of an interface is, again, you're having a contract. We know that as, for example, as a developer, you have an interface, and we have multiple classes that implement that interface. For example, we could have a loan account, right? And this is going to, or we don't want it to be a main. We want this to be, we just want this to implement I rate. Right, now we can hover over this, add in unimplemented methods, right? And say rate. It's going to again just print this out, increase rate. Okay, and then now in our account app, I won't actually go through the process of creating an object because we all know how to do this, but here we see that we have a loan and a bank account that both implement the rate. They have totally different purposes and totally different implementation, but because they are both tied to the rate, or because we've written this interface called a rate, we can create things that we know are going to be the same in the bank account as it will be in the loan, because they both implement the rate. They both have signed a contract to the same thing, which is rate. So the two aren't necessarily related. It's not like the bank account and loan are related, but it helps the whole architecture of your program if you have one interface that whoever implements this will have these same methods that they're going to have to write for themselves. So it kind of keeps things reusable and so forth. So interfaces are helpful to use. Again, the main idea here is we have all the outline, right? So in other words, interest rates, we can write the class outline and then basically have all of our classes implement an interface and leave the actual implementation up to that specific class. So interfaces and inheritance kind of work together, but inheritance has more of a we say it is a. So we have like it's more of a parent-child. So is so in other words a CD account is a bank account, right? So a CD account is a child of a bank account. It's almost a philosophical idea. A rate is not really tied. It's a property. So we'd say a loan has a rate, or a bank account has a rate. So the difference between inheritance and interface in kind of words terms is inheritance is and then an interface has that's the relationship wording.